Hello, Discord members. Welcome. Glad to have you all here on board. So it is late on Saturday night, and I thought before recording our first analysis video that's going to come out tomorrow morning, I would do a first weekly video. Again, this is going to be changing format section where everything you're going to see in this category on the server will be just guides, educational material. If we do like a private live stream on YouTube, I'll post a link in this channel as well. But I thought it would be appropriate for the very first video that I add in here to be a general guide on all my indicators and settings that I have on TradingView, since this is going to be the main platform that we're going to use for the analysis in the ES, NASDAQ, gold, and Bitcoin markets that we're going to share 5 days a week, okay? Now, from these four markets, ES and NQ are the ones that I day trade myself. And for that, I use a combination of TradingView, but I also use Sierra Chart mostly for executions. It all depends what prop firm I'm using. If I'm using Take Profit Trader or Lose It, for example, I'll always have them under rhythmic data, so I'll use Sierra Chart for that. If I'm using something like my funded futures or Tradeify that only have Tradeovate, no rhythmic data, then I'll execute on TradingView, but I will always have a Sierra Chart as well, just as an order flow reference. So later on, as the weeks go by, when I start making more content and talk about things to do with order flow, I'm going to be showing more Sierra Chart as well. But for now, let's just start with a quick guide on all the indicators and things that I have on TradingView, so that when I start posting all my analysis videos tomorrow, you're gonna know what everything means, and you're gonna get familiar with the style of how I have my charts. And obviously, you don't need to use TradingView. You can use whatever platform you use, but I figure TradingView is the most used and universal platform, and it has all the volume profiles indicators that are needed for my general analysis. So it's the best choice to use for this daily videos. So let's start off. If I go on the weekly chart, you can see on the weekly chart, I don't really have anything marked other than just the all-time high level, which is something that is obviously very important to always have marked, especially now that all the markets are pretty much near all-time high levels. Okay, so if we go down into the daily, and I'm going to open this so you can see my list of indicators there as well. So you can see on the daily, pretty much the only indicator that I have enabled is the 3 moving averages. Okay, and it's called 3 moving averages by Ray Gizmo. And what I have is right here, you can see this is a 200 moving average in dark blue, and this is a 50 moving average in light blue. And I only have those to show on the daily charts, and I like to have them just as a general reference because 50 and 200 MAs are like the benchmark of classical technical analysis. Okay, then the levels you see here, this is all discretionary levels that I draw. Probably on one of my future videos, I'll make a whole guide on what elements I look for in these levels. I have videos on YouTube talking about this. If you go to my YouTube channel and you look for levels or support resistance in the search box, you're going to get some videos explaining this. But basically, these are levels that I adjust every day if necessary, and I base them purely off of market structure. So basically, I'm looking for levels that have strong, important reactions from both sides with significant movements from there, and that I see have been respected for a while. Also, I place a special importance to the closer we are to where price is currently at as well. So all these levels that are in orange, these are levels that I make based on the daily time frame, okay? But they're going to show on all time frames down to the minutes. But any orange level that you see, those are daily levels. Then on the right side here, this is my long-term volume profile. For this, I use the anchored volume profile tool, which I also have here on my little shortcut tab that you have here. And you adjust this with this little star symbol on the bottom right here. You can activate or deactivate it. But this indicator, why I like this indicator the most, it is very similar to the fixed range, but this anchored profile is the only one that I can put on the far right side of the chart. I can put it on the far left side as well, okay? But I like to have it here on the far right on TradingView. And then the color, I only have the up volume and value area because, as you can see on my settings, I just like to use total volumes. I don't use up or down or delta on TradingView because since they don't have true tick data, then total volume is pretty much all I need here. I have all my other order flow indicators on Sierra chart as I mentioned. So row layout, you could use ticks per row, which in this case you want to go as low as possible in the futures market. So this is 1 tick per row. So then if I expand this, you can see that basically for every tick level, remember in futures every 0.25 on ES and NASDAQ is 1 level, you have 1 row per level. And then if I zoom out, you're going to get that. Now the problem with having ticks per row is that if you use a market that is not like futures, if you try to use 1 tick per row on Bitcoin, for example, let's go to the Bitcoin chart, you're going to get an error because the scale is so big that if I put 1 tick per row, and you can see it disappears, and I get this exclamation mark right here, and it says runtime error, okay? And that is histogram is too large, please increase row size in the settings window, okay? So that's why if I use ticks, I would have to start going up. I think it's like 50 ticks maybe, and it's gonna show, or even more, 100 ticks. It still gives the error. So you can see why I don't really like to use ticks per row, because it works great in futures, but in other markets it always gives a problem. So what I do is I just put number of rows, and I put a really big number like 3,000. This I found is pretty much universal, works for every market. So, even if I go to like a Forex market, you can see I have the same settings. 3,000 number rows, total volume, and value area, I always have it set at 68%. Okay? So that is my settings for my long-term volume profile. Now, one thing that I remember, because I had this similar group last year, whenever I would make the videos or put the screenshots, people would always ask me, where do you start the profile? Where is it anchored? So as you can see on the channels, on the different instrument channels on the server, I'm going to put screenshots on the daily, and if you click on the profile, you'll notice I get a little point here and I get a blue marker here. This is indicating the date where this profile is starting from. And as you can see, I anchored it from pretty much this point right here. Okay. Now, these long-term profiles, I don't really move them very much. I'll sometimes anchor them, and it's going to be weeks or even months before I need to really move them, because it all depends where the market is. Like right now, we've been pretty much in this general range since middle of September. Okay. So at the moment, I have it anchored, like I said, coming back. Let's pull it back to this high right here. You can see it doesn't really make a difference now where we are here, because it's only going to change what we see down below over here. But if this market comes and starts breaking and coming to these lows, then obviously we're going to be very interested to integrate this into our analysis. So if that was the case, then I would probably grab this and pull it back to this point over here. Okay. So basically that's how I work with my long-term profiles. All I care about is to have a good confluence with what's happening to the left of where price is at this moment. Okay. So anytime you see the screenshots on the daily charts, I'm going to click on the profile just so you can see that dot and that marker down at the bottom indicating the date that the profile started. Now on Bitcoin, this profile is coming way back, so it actually doesn't fit on the screenshot. So you can see on Bitcoin, I'm starting it from 26th of February of 2024. Pretty much when we broke out and started this descending channel before the move up to all-time highs. Okay. At the moment, it's not really that necessary to go that far back. Like I could even grab this and pull it up to here. And in this case, I'm only taking into account this area. But like I said, Bitcoin, crypto in general is not looking that great lately. So if we start coming down to these levels and coming down to like these lows, then we definitely want to integrate this into the profile. So that's why I just have it all the way back here just in case, because crypto is so volatile that you never know when you get a day when you're going to move like $10,000 in one single day. So that's why I want to have this area ready with this profile here in case we make a sharp move to this area. Okay, so that is in a nutshell the indicators that I have on my daily time frames. Okay, so it's the moving averages, then my daily levels, and my long-term volume profile. Let's go down into the hourly chart. The 4 hour and the 1 hour, I pretty much have like the same settings on both. So on the 1 hour, first let's start off with the indicators. You can see I have one called Monday Highlights. This is actually an indicator that I wrote and published. You can find it for free on TradingView. And what it does is it's going to color the background of Monday every week. I like to do this just because it makes it so much easier to identify Monday. You can see here when we have holidays, it usually like affects the code for it. So in this case, Monday was Martin Luther King Day. So it was a holiday in the US, so it was a short day. So we have 2 days shaded, Monday and Tuesday, okay? But normally you can see that it just shades every Monday. So that's one indicator I like, okay, to always have. And then I have my periodic volume profile, which you can find under indicators, technicals, profiles, and it's right here. Periodic volume profile. So if I double click on it or I go here to the settings, you can see I have it set for a period of 1 week. Total volume again, value area 68, number of rows 3000. This is going to be pretty standard for all my volume profile indicators on TradingView. Always total volume, 3000 rows, 68% value area. I don't mark or I don't extend the point of controls or value areas, but you can see on the shadings I can make this a little less. I have in dark gray is the 68% value area, and then in lighter gray is the areas outside of the value. And remember, value area, that 68% indicates that's where 68% of the traded volume is concentrated within that profile. Width, I have it at 50% width. I have it placed on the left side of the week because, I mean, on the right side, it looks pretty, I don't like how it looks there. I like it on the left. I don't really mark value area high and low, but you can definitely mark it if you want. And the point of control, I mean, point of control is pretty easy to spot because you know it's the point that is sticking out the most out of the entire profile. And the value area high-low obviously is going to be the lines that are going to divide the darker shaded value area from the rest of the values. I do use them in the lower time frames that we're going to see, but I don't use those in the higher time frames. And then visibility, I only have the weekly profiles marked in the hourly time frames. Then aside from that, we have this profile, which again is coming from the daily time frame, but I have it set to mark on the hourly and the minute as well. And then you're going to notice gray levels. These gray levels are my hourly levels. So the same as the daily, I use the same, the same discretionary approach. I base it purely off of market structure and price action, where I see that there's important support resistance levels that are getting respected, as you can see here from both sides. Like right here, this is another important level. This one as well. So I mark this off, and these levels are going to vary often, okay? Every night when I do my fresh analysis, I'm going to keep adjusting these levels to have the most precise levels marked off going on into the next session for you guys. So the gray ones are hourly, orange ones are daily, weekly profiles, and that's pretty much it for the hourlies. And then if I go into the 5 minutes, let's go into NASDAQ because the profiles on NASDAQ look a little darker just because there's more rows, because the scale of NASDAQ is bigger, so you get more resolution on the profiles. So here I have the rest of the indicators. So this first indicator, this is basically just these two things. It's basically a custom is called the 2 degrees, is basically just a custom link, and then also the information for the symbol and the time frame that I have on the chart that is going to show down there. Okay. Then after that, I have 2 session volume profiles. The reason I do this is because TradingView doesn't really have an effective way of separating the profiles into extended hours and regular hours. And I'm talking specifically about ES and NASDAQ, which are the markets that I apply this to. Okay. You're only really going to see me talk a lot about ES and NASDAQ on the lower time frames. I will talk, like when we talk about gold, I will go into the lower time frame on gold to help out any of you in the group that are day trading gold as well. But Bitcoin, I never really go into the lower time frames. I don't actively day trade Bitcoin. I think it's pretty hard probably to trade on like a 5-minute time frame because of just how volatile and choppy like crypto can be. So for Bitcoin, we're going to focus mainly on the higher time frames down to the hourly. But on the other markets, we will go down into the lower time frames. So I have 2 session volume profiles, which are under indicators, technicals, profiles. And I like to use this one. I don't like to use the HD because the HD is going to automatically adjust the size of the rows based on how zoomed in or out you are. So I don't want that. So the first one is for regular trading hours, and I just select custom session and I put 9:30 a.m. to 1700 New York time, Eastern time, and then the same settings as always. Then in style, I have the up volume in lighter gray, and then the value area in darker gray. And I do have enabled the value area high, low, and point of control lines, which you can see value area high and low are dash lines, and the point of control is a solid line. Okay, so that is my settings and visibility only in the minute time frames. And then the second one that I have on the extended hours is another session volume profile only on the minutes, and then same custom, and then I have it from 6 p.m. Eastern to 9:30 a.m. Eastern time, New York. So basically the extended market hours from the open until New York opens. So within this, we have what would be considered the Asia session, which pretty much is from like 7 o'clock when Tokyo starts opening, the Tokyo markets, Hong Kong, and then that'll extend until 3 a.m. Then at 3 a.m., we have the European London markets opening until 9:30, and then at 9:30 we have the New York open. Okay, and I like to split the sessions just because I know the regular hours are the main session for the day trading, but I always want to pay attention as well to the extended hours. Okay, and then the last indicator I have here is a 21 exponential moving average, and I have it set only in the minute time frame, EMA, 21 period length, and that is this blue line that you see here. And I especially like to look at the 5-minute EMA because obviously you know that the moving averages vary depending on what time frame we are watching. So if I go into 1 minute, this EMA is going to change because this is now going to be based on the closes on the 1 minute candlesticks. Okay, so here if I go back and forth, you can see that they're going to look slightly different, and the 1 minute is going to straddle price closer. But I have found that the 5 minute, it gives me a very nice view of trend following. Like for example here, this was the session from Friday, and you can see here we lost the 5 minute, and then we recover it, the 21 MA, and then right here we had some really nice tests and holding, and once we lost it, then we started holding it as resistance. Again, I don't use this as a signal in itself for entries on trades, but I use it in confluence with all my volume profile levels, etc. And we're going to talk about all of this a lot in this group, okay? So that's all my list of indicators. Now, for these indicators, you do need to have a paid plan on TradingView. I have the essential plan, which is basically the most basic paid plan on TradingView, which is going to offer you all the volume profile indicators, okay? And for me, that's all I really need in TradingView as far as indicators on that. The last thing that I use, I don't have it marked right now, but when I am day trading, I really like to use VWAP. So the anchored VWAP here, I'll just set it manually at the beginning of the session. Again, this is another thing on Sierra chart. This happens automatically, but on TradingView, I haven't found a reliable session VWAP that resets itself at the beginning of each separate session. So I just do it by myself. I mean, it literally takes like 2 seconds to add to the charts. And I just started from the very first candle, either on the extended hours at 6 p.m. And I use that if I'm going to look to trade in the Asia session. And then as soon as New York opens, then I move it to the New York Open at 9:30. Okay? And if we go back up into the hourly, and then the daily, that's pretty much a guide on everything that you're going to see on my screen during my analysis videos and screenshots on the TradingView platform. Okay, tomorrow morning I'm going to make the full analysis video to start us off and be ready for the Sunday night open, but more importantly, going tomorrow into London and New York. Overnight, sometimes you do get good movements. Other times it's pretty slow and rangy. So I personally don't really trade night a lot. When I used to have a full-time job, I traded the Asia session more. And I mean, it's definitely, you can definitely find opportunities trading the extended hours. You just have to be a lot more patient because volumes are a lot lower and usually less volatility. So it's going to take a while for movements to take place. Like here you can see London opened like right here, and that's usually when you get your first injection of volumes. Like if I add a simple volume indicator here, you can see how during the Asia session volumes are like super low. Then in the European session they start raising a little bit, and then in New York we just get the massive influx of volumes. And especially during the first hour and a half of the session from 9:30 until 11, that's when the London markets and Europe with New York are overlapping. So that's when we get the maximum amount of volumes that we're going to have for the day as well. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this video. Just wanted to give you a quick introduction into my charts and all the settings and indicators that I use on TradingView. And with that, we're going to be ready to start tomorrow. I'll post the full weekly analysis video tomorrow in the probably around like lunchtime, well ahead of the Sunday night open, so you can all have time to watch it, etc., and have it ready into Sunday evening. Okay, with that, I'll leave you. Thank you all very much. Welcome to the server. Say hello in the chats, and we'll talk again soon.